All right, here come the big words, people. I have another acronym here that I'm going to share. So it's UDECK, the letter U, D-E-C-K. And what that represents is ubiquitously distributed, effective communication of knowledge. Ubiquitously distributed, effective communication of knowledge. What this summarizes are the requirements for building a personal brand based on a self of substance, which means that you have knowledge that is wanted, needed, and useful by many people. So it fits the category of the world needs it and you can earn money from it. And I would hope for people that it could be done in a similar way to how I feel about it, which is that I enjoy doing it and I'm passionate about it. So just for an example of something that where this idea, I can summarize it most easily is from what I understand of the Japanese concept of ikigai, which is to me a variation on do what you love and the money will follow. Because ikigai basically, from what I understand, I could be completely misinterpreting it, but from what I understand, ikigai basically communicates the idea that something that you enjoy and that you are passionate about, you're also very good at it, the world needs it, and you can make money from it. And my fortes that fall into that category are music. I'm a writer of lyrics and a composer of music. I'm also a singer, and I play various musical instruments, guitar and drums included. And I perform on those instruments, and I record them, and I publish them. And the only way that I can say, besides the fact that I enjoy it and I'm passionate about it, the way that I can say that I'm good at it is because I consistently get objective feedback from other people about how much they enjoy hearing my voice and listening to my music. So this is objective. This is why I know it also fits the category that the world needs it, or as I've appended that it's wanted, needed, and useful, which is a term of phrases that I heard from Earl Nightingale, where in his audio recording, "The Strangest Secret," where he says, things should be wanted, needed, and useful. And that's how you exchange something that's valuable, that's built on mutual exchange. So, okay. I'm a little distracted because there's some real stupid traffic happening right now because this Amazon Prime vehicle is blocking traffic in a very unsafe way. And I'm finally now able to get around it. How ridiculous. But, okay. All right. Square one. Let me reset my brain. Ubiquitously distributed, effective communication of knowledge. Or I should even say, I think that the way that I was thinking about it previously was ubiquitous distribution of effectively communicated knowledge. I think I like the way that feels better, and I for some reason also because just that minor change from distributed to distribution feels better. I feel like distribution is more present and ongoing. It's more action. Okay, so because distributed is past tense, right? So I want it to be ongoing, the feeling of it. So, and for those who don't know the word ubiquitous, forgive me. That's why I said, big word alert, because people get on me all the time about things that I publish and write that they say they have to have like dictionaries and stuff. A lot of people talk about, and I've heard, various different speakers and people on YouTube and things like that say things like they make sure that the language they're using and the way they're presenting is as universally appealing as possible. That takes effort. It really does. And I can definitely put in that effort and adjust the way that I present. I just don't want to. That's as simple as it is. Level up your vocabulary and your understanding of the world, or you don't get my information. It's not me being an elitist or wanting to leave people out. It's somewhat uncomfortable for me, because I also know that in general a lot of people are really lazy when it comes to, because everybody has an excuse about something. I'm not good at math. I don't like to read. So you know what? So what am I supposed to just dumb everything down? I don't really, because a lot of things are difficult for me. And I know that my perspective is not the perspective of others. So I'm not saying that people, just because I can, just you should be able to. But I understand that education is difficult, and I'm mainly autodidactic. There's another one of those big words. I'm mainly a lot of things I'm self-taught, but just because I read and I listen a lot, and then I synthesize that information in my own mind, and then I re-communicate it or re-present it, right? I present it again. It was presented to me, and then I present it again. I represent it from my perspective. And I also have an acronym for that, which is SAPAST, SAPAST, which stands for study, adopt, practice, adapt, share, and teach. And that's how things go, right? And that's how I process a lot of information and how I learn. It's my personal development journey that I document and publish so that other people can develop themselves personally. Simple. And that is the fundamental process of this ubiquitous distribution of efficiently communicated knowledge. So when you do that use that SAPAST system, right, of studying, adopting, practicing, adapting, sharing, and teaching, you are creating substance, which is the knowledge. And then you also, when you're able to effectively communicate that knowledge, that means that you've gotten past the practice and adapt part, right? Because when you study it, first you're committing it to memory, then maybe even to procedural memory or second nature, right? But you study it and then you adopt it, like you would adopt an animal or adopt a child, right? I mean, you're bringing it into your life. And that's when it's in your life, then you can practice with it or play with it is another way, right? Practice or play, that's the P. And then once you become familiar with it, you can adapt it for your own personal use and expression, and it all automatically mutates and becomes adapted to your mental environment. So it's really uniquely you once you get your hands on it, unless you're repeating verbatim everything that you hear. And sometimes there are some things that require that. And then you share it, which also, when you do that, sometimes also simultaneously teaches people. Or you could be deliberately sharing it for the purpose of teaching. So these things are very connected, but that's what builds the knowledge. And you also, when you continue to practice with it and adapt it, then you learn, and when you're sharing it and teaching it, that's the effective communication. And that's the part that's really important. Because if you're not able to effectively communicate the knowledge, then no matter how ubiquitous your distribution is, it's going to reach people and they're not going to get it. And I know that might even seem like it counters what I've said earlier about, and I use the term dumbing down, and I know that might be offensive to some people. I don't mean to do that, but I also am not a nice person in general. It's like not my job to be nice to everybody. I'm not rude just for the sake of being rude, but I do understand that some things that I say come off as harsh and abrasive, and I'm okay with that. It's just because I can't have a second face. You know, it's how I am, and so I do my best to be luck, L-U-C-K, loving, understanding, compassionate, and kind, but that doesn't necessarily mean I have to be nice all the time or dumb everything down. So enough about that philosophical, ethical, moral leaning, whatever categories that fits into. But so there are several things that happen when we deal with studying, adopting, practicing, adapting, sharing, and teaching. In that process is where we're developing our knowledge and learning how to effectively communicate it. And once you get that down, and the examples from myself I was starting to give, but they are music. Like I said, I write lyrics and I sing, I compose songs, and I play instruments, and I record and I publish it. And so, then I said that I objectively receive feedback from that is overwhelmingly positive. Come on, what the hell is going on? So I receive feedback that is overwhelmingly positive to my musical output. So then the other thing is metaphysics. And metaphysics, to me, first I've developed my own framework called the meta framework, because the word meta means above or beyond, and physics is nature, but it's somewhat of a misnomer to call metaphysics beyond nature, because to me there really is only one nature. But that's where my metaphysics framework comes in, META. That acronym that I made from that Greek word represents mathematical, experimental, theoretical, and applied physics, because I believe that people should know those fundamentals, and at least the fundamentals of the fundamentals, those four pillars of physics, before they start trying to jump off into the beyond the physical. And then within my study of META physics and metaphysical sciences, my framework covers these things, which, like I said, science, right? Mathematical, experimental, theoretical, and applied physics. So science, philosophy, and spirituality are all form the fundamental, the basis of my metaphysical sciences. And that's how I justify to myself that I am actually practicing something that can truly be called metaphysical sciences. So it brings out metaphysics into being applied metaphysics, which is, an applied philosophy, and as much as I can. And that's what applied physics is, right? Applied physics is engineering. It's how you turn it into a technology or a product or service. And then there is martial arts, and which is one of the ones that is most grounded in reality. And I'm not saying that music and metaphysics aren't, just that it's something that is really hands-on for me, that has the most utility all around, especially in ikigai. It's something that I really enjoy. I'm also really good at it, and the world needs it. People need to become more confident and learn self-defense. And also there's a fitness component into how I teach martial arts. So there's healthy living and self-defense, and I can earn money from it, because I do earn money from it, and I have been earning money from it for a long time, for at least 28 years, since 1998. So these are all, and so I'm just giving those examples because music, metaphysics, and martial arts are the things that fall into those categories of ikigai. Do what you love and the money will follow, right? Because the world, I'm good, I enjoy it, I'm good at it, the world needs it, and I can earn money from it. And that all covers the knowledge, and you need to understand how to effectively communicate that knowledge. And then the very next thing is you can be you may have heard this before, but you can be the greatest at whatever it is that you do, but if nobody knows about it, then how are you going to, get any recognition for it or earn any money from it at all, right? To earn your living. And so the effective communication of knowledge requires distribution. And it requires, and I say ubiquitous distribution, because even though ubiquitous means everywhere, right? But it's sort of a way of a motivation to understand in a similar way as the phrase that says, shoot for the moon. If you miss, at least you'll land amongst the stars. Right? Which, I don't know, that sounds kind of crazy. You wouldn't want an astronaut to miss the moon and land amongst the stars. You can't really land amongst the stars. You just be free floating in space and die eventually. All right. But that's not funny. I wasn't laughing at that. I was just laughing at how ridiculous my mind is sometimes. Not laughing at an astronaut getting lost in space. That would really suck. Oh, man. I can imagine myself getting lost in space and how I would just be so annoyed floating around in space and just be like, dude, I'm going to die because I missed the moon. Like, how did I miss the moon? What was I doing to miss the moon? And I'm just floating around in my spacesuit, slowly suffocating to death, maybe, feeling the effects of radiation poisoning or something like that. And just being so annoyed. And just being like, all right, this is so dumb. I can't do anything. And, well, all right. So we understand that we have to have, the distribution and of the knowledge. So those are the really core components of what is required in the system UDECK, ubiquitous distribution of effectively communicated knowledge. Now, why is this useful? Well, it's useful because this serves so many different purposes. In the online economy that is dominated by artificial intelligence and social media, the economy is run on attention. You got to grab as much attention as you can and direct it toward your product and or services so that you can earn a living. And I'm talking about doing things that you really enjoy. Do what you love and the money will follow. And this is one of the most effective ways to do it, which I'm finding about and how to do it is one, you have to, like I was already covered, you have to have knowledge, right? And knowledge means that something that you're really good at, and then you have to be able to effectively communicate that, and then you have to let as many people know about that. And that's what ubiquitous distribution of effectively communicated knowledge means. And the way that I'm doing that is, and I feel like I just have to explain this all the time, but there's so many fads and trends going on online right now, right? Like there's people, for example, who talk about a faceless YouTube channel, and then it's like in contention with sometimes, like there's things that I find ridiculous, right? Like there's podcasts, and then all of a sudden there's video podcasts, right? Which most of them, I don't know why they're being called that, right? Because they're basically talk shows. They're not very different than, like, if anybody's ever seen Larry King, a lot of the biggest talk shows are basically variations of Larry King's show, right? He would sit at a table with people and talk to them, and it was like kind of like a news show. It was like reporting, like investigative reporting. I never really watched it. I've kind of seen it, and I get the idea of it. But when I look at a lot of podcasts nowadays that they call video podcasts, they're basically old school talk shows on YouTube, right? Or wherever people are streaming them from. That's it. There's nothing special about it. It's all about the content, right? It's all about the effective communication of knowledge. That's really what matters. And so then there's a lot of people going around talking about video podcast. Like podcast, that's a talk. I don't know why you have to call it that. It's so weird to me, right? A podcast is basically another variation of talk radio, right? So back in the day, people, FM, AM, I mean, we still have it. I know. Oh, it's fun. I think I just bought an old school radio, a boombox that has an FM radio, AM, FM radio. Let me see if I can go to the, where's the function thing here? It has a tape in it. Where's, I'm not really familiar. Oh, there we go. There's functions. There's Bluetooth. Okay, there we go. There's. You hear that static? Isn't that awesome? Let me go forward here. See if we can pick up some channels. I don't know why am I doing this. I'm so distracted, but it's hilarious how sidetracked I get. This is FM. Isn't there a thing that can do this much more quickly? Isn't it like a tune? Wait, hold on. There we go. I can't play too much of that because, Alright, well, you get the idea. Alright, so. But they're the same thing, right? Podcast is talk radio. It's just on the internet. It's fundamentally not any different. So these are clear distinctions, right? But also remember, this is also not that different. Like, a lot of these things are the same, except they're on the internet. That's the only difference. Like, for example, there were broadcasts of football games on TV for as long as they decided to start broadcasting football games on television, right? And for the people who are at work, I picture a construction crew guy or people doing, janitorial work or people working in the hospital, and they want, to keep up with whatever's going on in the game. And I know my dad used to do it all the time on the radio when he wasn't watching TV, because my mom always had the TV on, and he wanted to listen to like a Yankees baseball game, and so he would turn on the radio. But it was being broadcast live, the audio component of the commentary, that was basically just the audio only version of what was being broadcast on television. And so this is like the same thing. Like these video podcasts, you can also get an audio version of it. And because it's just funny to me how sometimes you often hear people doing the video podcast saying, and for those of who are only listening, who can't see, what I'm doing is da 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 da, and it's like, I don't know, man. All right, so enough of my tirade on the differences between these things, but there's a very efficient way to be able to quickly produce and distribute information, effectively communicated knowledge, right? In order to basically direct as much attention to your business as possible. And when I say business, I'm not even talking about the fact that you have to formally organize into an LLC or anything like that. Just if you want to get attention so people can send money to you for you effectively communicating knowledge, you have to ubiquitously distribute it. And I'm doing that right now. I drove and I started recording in my car when this idea came to me. And I'm going to then end this recording, create titles, description and tags with AI, because AI, I'm taking advantage of the fact that AI is in fact very sycophantic, which it will just repeat and agree with everything that you say, unless it's like really extreme, then it might push back. But this is a way to authentically to maintain my human-centered voice. I'm basically going to give DeepSeek R1 AI the transcript that is being made from where I'm recording on my Galaxy device. So I have Galaxy AI. It's going to make a transcription. The transcription is bad. It's terrible. It often misspells things. It always misspells my name. It always misspells various different brands that I work under, like Kappa, Geta, Hypno, Athletics, Uniquilibrium, Sword Paper, World Reading Club. So I'm going to advise right now in the recording for DeepSeek to check online to make sure that the spellings and the stylization, where the capitalizations are made for the various different things that I say. But a lot of that hasn't been in here because I just came up with this acronym UDECK. And this is my point, and I'm kind of crash coursing it. and working this out in my mind right now. And there's going to be a shorter version of this coming very soon after this, because I'm realizing this is a great idea to help people to encapsulate in their minds what they need to do to direct attention to their business, right? Meaning their money-making opportunity that they created themselves, not for somebody else, something that you do, right? So like, for example, I'm a healthy living and self-defense coach. And so the more information that I get to people out there that I do that, the more, and when I continue to direct it in a certain way, the more people are going to find I'm going to be discoverable, especially by AI and other search engines. And they're going to, it's basically another form of attraction marketing or magnetic marketing. But that's the importance of ubiquitous distribution. So first of all, again, I'm just going to recap and finish because I had something I need to do. But first of all, you need to develop some knowledge, right? So you're going to have to study, adopt, practice, adapt, share, and teach as a system to develop this knowledge, right? And there's another acronym I use is CAMP: create, archive, market, publish. And so you need to use those things to basically all that really means is that you're documenting your personal development journey and publishing it so that other people can also learn from it. And when you keep doing that, you effectively communicate knowledge. And what is knowledge really? It's something that's wanted, needed, and useful. It fits the ikigai criteria of the world needs it, right? And when you position yourself to earn money from it, you can make money from it. And I believe you should, only because this is how I approach it, that it should be, although it could be anything that you're really, really good at and if you're willing to do it enough. But I say that you should be passionate about it and enjoy doing it. That's because that's the approach that I'm taking. It doesn't mean that it's the approach that you should take. And there are people who say that that's not the approach that you should take. And they're also saying that you don't need to be yourself either. I'm saying that you can be yourself if the self is a self of substance, which I gave examples of things that you can do to build that substance, which is knowledge, right? Okay. So that's really all that this is about. It's developing the self of substance, which is the building of a knowledge base, and then also learning how to effectively communicate that knowledge and then ubiquitously distribute that. And finding as many ways to point that towards whatever kind of paywall you have online or IRL, in real life, right? When in face-to-face with people. And that's really how this is going to work out. So I'm going to think about this for a little bit. I have to go do a task right now, but I'm going to think about this and I'm going to make some more succinct, shorter 10-minute blurbs about this. I'm going to actually, the thing that I'm doing now is I'm doing my best to start whittling down all of my podcasts, because I have a lot of long form ones out there already, and I think they've done the job enough. And so now I'm going to start doing these smaller bite-sized chunks because I'm realizing the attention span of people. Like, for example, I put up a couple of YouTube shorts on my Uniquilibrium YouTube channel and on another channel, I think it's the Capagetta one. And like within just a few minutes, they get like 1.3 thousand views. Like, it's just so crazy. And they're 60 seconds long of me like doing backflips or something like that with a little bit of voiceover telling people, get off your butt and like do something. I don't even remember what I'm even saying, but those seem to be performing the most. And they're getting also, good couple hundred views on TikTok. And even as I'm speaking right now, what is this thing? Yeah. So, and people are responding to TikTok now, and I haven't even done anything in a while on there. So that's it. I am Hakeem Ali Bokus Alexander. This is the encoding of the understanding of how to start building your business through personal branding. And there's a lot to unpack here. And it's UDECK, ubiquitous distribution of effectively communicated knowledge. There's a lot more to come on that, but it's really simple, although it's challenging.